Okay. Hello, Mika.
Hello, Lena.
Yeah, I'm really happy that you are doing this interview with me today.
Mhm.
Yeah, we are here at Labracadabra, which is a great place on Kopangan Island in Thailand, where we have a training space and also much time to recharge and enjoy the sun. And yeah, so this is how we met actually. And I asked you if you would be my first, my first candidate for an interview about, your path with flow arts and your life story. Kind of like, I just find you are an inspiring person
Thank you.
and also a really good flow artist and a teacher. Yeah, so I would really like to just get to know you and in a way, yeah, like I have prepared some questions and we will see how it rolls.
Awesome.
So yeah, let's start with you like introducing who you are and what's your path with flow arts so far.
All right. First, thank you for inviting for the interview. I'm happy to do that with you. First time I do an interview on the topic, but it's I like also in general how you go into the depth of thing, and you like also to see the different layers, and you're also an artist yourself, and we have different interests in common, and so I'm really curious what can come out of the interview and more conversation together also. So first question, how I came into flow art, right?
Yeah.
Okay. My first real step into flow arts came from video game because I was actually a nerd as a teenager, spending most of my time in summer playing video games and trying to be as much out of reality as possible. It was great to be in those different universes, and in one game I was playing, one character was using a stick, doing a lot of like martial art move and really crazy combination. And at some point I just pick up a broom and start to do stuff till I met someone in my surrounding who told me that actually this is called juggling. It was in France. There we call it that juggling and not flow art there. And he told me you can do that with fire, and so try a little bit, but my first steps were really, really slow. I had no one around me who was really into it, and no teacher, nothing. So I did really, really, really basic for the first years. But what I consider for me as my real start into flow art or juggling or spinning, it was in 2013. It's 10 years ago now in EGC, European Juggling Convention. It was in France, in Toulouse. It was a total mess. It was amazing. That was, I don't know, I think around 6,000 people, few gymnasium full of people and creativity, and my mind got completely blown away. It's where I met also few people who are still some of my best friends and best flummies. Took my first workshop with someone called Chaz, amazing teacher, also amazing spinner, and gave me my first contact staff workshop. And from there it's started. There I became completely obsessed with it and start to actually wanted to travel, meet different teachers and really learn from it. And I think a year after doing that, like after in 2014, I really like quit my job also, start to do only that, travel around, and it bring me to travel around the world. I went to Southeast Asia first, and like with my stick on the backpack, and like went to Cambodia. There were like a flow art festival there where I wanted to learn, but I ended up being teacher and performer.
I think maybe I was there too.
Yeah.
Actually,
what was the name again?
Flow, fire, arts, and spirituality. Or
yeah,
something?
free flow.
Free flow.
Yeah. Was a total mess.
Yeah.
It was a total mess, but it was also really inspiring. There were like people from everywhere in the world dancer, acrobat, fire spinner, all of it. It was really awesome.
Yeah, I remember as well, like for me it was the first time that I came to Asia, and like this festival was kind of like, didn't go just for the festival, but it was the reason, like in the beginning. And then I met all the people who are like travelers and just doing their thing, and yeah, so that was quite an experience.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's so many connections started there and still relevant to that day. And I also came back the year after, and yeah, some people I was teaching then the first year became also like a flow and business partner later on, and with who I made my first bigger crew and everything. So like there's just so much stuff who happened from this festival. Also where I learn also what I don't like about this community sometimes also.
What is that?
I guess we are in a community where depending where it's based have different influence, and there was also a lot of like what some people call spirituality. For me, what I call bypassing is just like talking about the flow, caring for everything, and just not taking responsibility for anything. And on the second year, one of the organizers promised stuff about taking care of the child and the children on the island, and did nothing because the flow will care for it. And I'm also like a educator, so for me, if you like create expectation around you actually caring for the island, for the people there, and then you don't even give the task to someone else. There we were so many circus trainers, pedagogue, artists who could organize everything, and I ended up being the one organizing everything within an hour. And we had like a circus show for the kids. We had like some people giving them workshop. It didn't took long, but for me, that's why I realized I like people who do what they say and not only like speak to give themselves a picture.
And like be responsible and not like, bypass.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you mentioned like spirituality, like that's actually a thing that I want to ask you also about. But let's first like still stick a little bit around with your Flowartist journey, and just so people can kind of like get a little bit of a picture on like what you are doing. Like maybe you want to tell about like where you now live and like your performance group, or what's your main thing that you're doing.
Yeah, I can try to give a picture. So before I went completely into Flowartist, I also studied alternative education in France, where we study how to use art in order to create a different type of society and give like more like a critical thinking to people, and access to art as a way to empower themselves and being part of a community. And so this also completely influenced the way I went into Flowartist. And right now I'm half of the time teaching, half of the time performing. So I'm doing really both. In Berlin, I'm living in Berlin now, and I'm giving workshop when I'm there almost 1 or twice a week, sometimes with some breaks with performance, stuff like this. But for me, like, I use Flowartist. I teach Flowartist on the technical aspect. I like to help people to empower, to learn things faster than I did, because I struggle on absolutely every topic. So I kind of see where people have obstacles, because I had to like overcome all of them. I don't see myself as someone talented, but more a struggler who had to like understand all the small details. But this is also what I like about teaching, is like seeing all the small details and give them to people to help them go further. But also because it creates group dynamic where people can also like connect with each other with like a similar passion, but also get them out of like some toxic environments regarding drugs, regarding like, I don't know, communities where there's a sense of value is probably a bit more toxic, but in the one of the fire or flow community, there's quite a sense of value which is more have more benefit for people often, like more openness, more like sense of care, more like a sense of community actually. So like I spent quite some time doing that, teaching convention, teaching online also. But since 2017, I started to actually perform regularly, and like now it's been 3-4 years with Corona, where I was doing performing as a main profession, and so performing all year long for different fire crew. I worked in France, I work now in Germany, with a crew called Entourage and Freaks on Fire, and also for different crew. So having my own entity, but most of the time actually being like a side performer for different crew.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was now that you mentioned you as a teacher, it's important for you to kind of like help your students to get out of like a toxic environment. That's what you said. Is this kind of like?
Now, I will frame it a bit differently because I will not have the pretension that I can have this impact in the life of people, but I just more seen through like the way I'm offering the workshop.
Mm-hmm.
Then first of all, we have just a little talk where everybody can express, just say their name, how they feel today, and what they are wishing for, and also then different wish are also like welcome. Some people are here to learn some technical. Some people are here because they want to be part of the group and be extract of their daily life. And some people came actually because most of the time they were feeling quite depressed. It's quite common in Berlin. Half of the people there are in therapy. And they were welcome as they were, because when I come to my workshop, I try to like not through alternative education. I try to not go there as just like the person of authority who is giving the knowledge, but like I show myself as I am. So sometimes I go there, I'm like, I'm under a lot of emotional stress. I'm doing those processes at the moment. I'm like quite overwhelmed, but I said it to the people, and I'm also clear that my intention is to be focused on them and to like be a support for them during that time. So they also feel free to express the same thing. And so then people actually be like, hey, actually I'm allowed to be part of a group, even if I'm not going super well, and actually it's welcome, and I can also talk about it later after the class and everything. So it just brings another type of culture and like a different way of communicating with each other also.
Yeah, that's wow. I feel like that's really inspiring, and I imagine that it's just so good for the people who are in your classes, that they can feel welcome, like however they are in the moment. Because so, a lot of the times, I think people believe that they are only welcome when they are in a very good mood, or if they have a lot of energy. And if that's not the case, then they're often like, okay, no, I'm not going to training today. Or
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's how you prevent it, like just have this like really welcoming atmosphere.
Yeah, and for me, I think it was also important to have this aspect into my classes, because actually spinning is the thing who kept me going a lot through a different process in my life, like period of huge depression and stuff like this. I was still keep on spinning, and actually it was helping me to have like a routine, something where I was just not in my mind or in my feelings completely like stuck in there, but I was actually like connect to the object and just like let my mind be a bit free for a certain moment. And like all the time in my life it kept me going since I started 10 years ago. And so maybe somehow people to make the connection, then this is something we can stay with them all the time, either as a way to access the community or a way to access themselves also.
Yeah, I would really love you to talk a little bit more about how do you think that flow arts helps people to get out of depression, or to really experience a deeper sense of this is me, connection to the self.
I think flow art on itself is a tool who can like fulfill many different needs. I know some people really use it just as a way to connect with people and to like go to convention, go to like the flow jam, and sure they learn a bit, but for them it's just about creating a new social environment. There is also people who just do it to feel the need of attention, which I will not judge, because I also do like attention. It's my job also to be on stage in front of everyone, so I will not judge that need. But there is like, it's fulfilling different thing. But for me, the aspect who interests me the most is like how some of us started that because like just by, why not, let's try. But it's just something by keep practicing, by keep on learning, by keep on discovering, is like it's also like a way to enter ourselves and to see how do you learn, what are the obstacles, why for example do you feel maybe shy to be in front of people. Just by practicing this art form, it just pushes you to discover so many aspects of yourself that you will never have seen before. Especially if you start to play fire, you can like see some character just really like blow, because normally they would probably maybe a bit shy, and give them a stick with fire in their hand and they're just a completely different aspect of their personality coming out. And it's also a tool where the community is a lot about exchange and less about competitiveness. There is competitiveness, but it's not a thing against each other, but more celebrating each other. So it's really also allow people to like show their uniqueness in the way they express and discover this art form. So for me, that's one aspect. And I think, yeah, like I like to study also psychology and different spirituality, and it's to have a practice of movement and we are repeating constantly also bring us in a state where it calm down the mind. It's the same in meditation. If we do like some mantra or focusing on the breathing, taking one trick and repeating it for 10-15 minutes, it just shut down the thoughts. And that's some people, like if you never experienced meditation before, this is exactly like you experiment something completely new. And by doing that so often and going so deep into your practice, you end up connecting like your mind, your body, and something else together, and what people then call the flow state, which can be addictive too, because people that try to only reach then this flow state, but it's something so unique that it's difficult to describe it with words, because like time doesn't matter, people around doesn't matter. There's just a moment of floating, of silence, where like I'm feeling a sense of power also within ourselves, but not over people, but just within. And it's mind-blowing. It's something where it's connecting so many elements together after so much work and so much dedication into something. It's truly unique, and that's why I understand why people call it flow art too. But I also don't want to focus only on the flow, because it's, for me, the flow is as important as the moment where you are stuck and it doesn't feel great. And for me, both are important, because if we're just seeking the honey, then it's then we are just aiming for the good in life. While for me, I push my student to also enjoy the drill, enjoy the moment where you're practicing, but you really don't feel like it's, you really don't want it, but you still do it because you want to keep pushing. And I think, I think just with this practice, it shows you so many different aspects of yourself, of other people, and also it's something keep on going.
Yeah. Also, I feel like when you practice and you're not in the flow, you just practice to learn new things, to incorporate them into your flow, then the flow state will evolve and it will get better and better and will feel better and better in a way. Because you're so much, you have so much more flexibility, and so it's really like, it kind of belongs together, like the discipline to train, even if sometimes it's a little hard and you get stuck. And then on the other hand, the flow state where you're just and totally enjoying yourself.
Exactly. And also each props then you use have a specific curve on how long you need before accessing this flow state, and also how you can evolve with it. Like there's some props like dragon stuff where within a class people can already access that, which is like insane, because there's other props like poi or stuff where you need like, or maybe you hoop a bit also, you need so much dedication before being into that state. But there's some other props where it's just clicking so fast. And but also if people like dragon stuff, what I can witness for this specific object when I teach students, they access flow state really fast, but then they struggle really with the obstacle of learning and drilling. So they constantly seek this nice feeling versus I'm gonna push forward because it's gonna be worth it there. When people start with poi, they mainly hurt the genitals a lot at the beginning, their face, and then like they need probably a few weeks before actually even feeling a flow for the first time. But then they are not so afraid of any learning curve, because it was like, it was so hard from the beginning that it's fine. Juggling, people who learn juggling understand way more those obstacles than people who just like flow and do the same thing over and over. But it's not to judge this. It's just like it's every blessing have a curse also. So it's interesting to try different instruments for that reason too, I think.
Yeah, and what you said about it calms down the mind, I can totally, like for myself, when I started, like, I don't know, like 10, 15 years ago, I started to play poi, and that was exactly at a time where I had a sleeping disorder, and every time I couldn't sleep, I would just play poi. Yeah, and it helped me so much.
Yep.
I think actually if I wouldn't have had that problem, I wouldn't like gone so deep into the the practice, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, I wonder if you can relate to that.
Yeah, I think I can relate to that as well, because and I also see then like somehow sort of imbalance we have within ourselves creates then also like a certain need to push forward. For me, I know through my upbringing, then like someone who was like constantly trying to seek acknowledgement from people I judge as like a bit like authority figure. So I was a really good student. I was learning the tricks and I was drilling for hours to get it cleaned. And one of my masters looked at me and was like, "Good job." I was seeking that for years. Now I'm not in there, and then I see that I'm a bit less hungry. You know, I'm less pushing forward in those directions, because there's also like one of the motto of this dynamic is not there anymore. But you can create new one, I think. But I see also like a lot of people I know in France who actually started also like in raves and free party in France, and people were just consuming drugs and like trying to of course there's the hedonistic part of it, which just like we enjoy to enjoy, but also somehow a lot of people there have like also like difficulties in life. They have like things they want to avoid and they want to escape from, but with an escape like drugs, you have like really high impact on our mental health situation, on the health also in general. And so so many of them just like started to grab a stick because and just they don't stop, especially with drugs. Like people tend to really not stop. And at some point, I'm taking less drugs because actually I know I don't want to be drunk, because I want to like be more focused on that. And I saw people getting out of really highly addictive pattern. They switched the addiction to something that actually was way more rewarding for them and changed completely their lifestyle. And I saw many people having this change.
Yeah, you can create something meaningful and something where you can actually flourish and become like the best version of yourself. Like that's a good addiction in a way. Yeah? I don't even know if it's would actually meet the symptoms for an addiction, because addiction is from a clinical standpoint also one part of it is that it has negative consequences on your health and your social life. So if this has only like positive consequences, I don't know if it's an addiction.
I mean, like for those two aspects, I think it's just me doing the devil advocate. I will not like try to advocate to say specifically it's an addiction, but if someone in a circle of friends start to spin and the others don't, and you meet other people spinning, you quickly change your circle of friends. It's happened a lot of people. Then when they start actually getting in there and so in, then it changes your social life, because like you are hang out with friends, but you are spinning. You know, like you are so in there, then actually almost all your life end up turning around it, to the point that with some friends we're also saying that if you meet other people, just stop juggling for a moment, sit down and talk and just be with the people, and maybe don't speak only about juggling. Everything starts to turn around that. Your circle of friends, what you do, your life. Even though, like for me, I'm performing, I'm teaching, I'm also doing that as a hobby. I'm sharing that with my partner. It's like, that's why I push actively to have people around me who don't do that, because otherwise I know my life will only turn around it, and then it's become a bit like a group of people just being, you know, on one topic like smoking pots, or start to be like the main. So, but that's just, I'm pushing to be a bit more, because I like to be David advocate. And I think on the health thing, that's something with become more appearance now, true, because now we start to be able to see it with a bit more, there's a past now. I have friends also were hooping in one direction.
Oh yeah, that's.
And damage their spine pretty badly.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's also because we're not a practice where people are like, okay, you really need to warm up or stuff like this. It's not like we're not a martial arts dance or things where people will really push you to care for your body in the way you do it. Same for like spinning fire. Let's see in 10, 20 years, what is it to actually doing it every weekend and inhaling fume and everything.
Yeah,
but
so
I don't think it's just me pushing.
Yeah, no, you're right. Like there are not only positive consequences, like there are also like negative or downsides of it, and we don't want to pretend that
it's not existing.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I appreciate that actually that you say it, and yeah, so like both sides can be seen, and
you have a mosquito here.
Okay. Yeah.
It's wet and mosquito, Thailand.
Yeah, that's how it is here. Yeah, we have also like a really big bug living inside of here, which just flies around my head, and yeah. But okay. Yeah, like another question that I wrote down that I really want to ask you is, what do you think is the connection between flow arts and spirituality?
First thing who come in mind is then it's a practice who can help you to turn inward. For me, spirituality is really something will help you discover a bit more your inner world, and it's a practice then sure you can share with others, but if you want to go forward, it's time with yourself. It's time where you just really spend time with yourself and not something else. The object is helping, so it's just like a medium to use. Like we could focus on our breathing in meditation or like different spiritual practice, or just repeating things. So there's also the notion of repetition. Actually, one of my teacher was giving me this rule, which is a rule of 9, which they use in Tibetan meditation too, which you should try to get 9 repetition clean of a movement before you end up doing the next one. 9, 18, 27 or 36. And he was using that with breath work in Tibetan meditation. So the practice and the time with yourself, the repetition and the constant, if you want to see any result or like any like deeper exploration, you need to dedicate a good amount of your time every day in there. It's not something where, oh, it's there. And the same thing for me. So spirituality, if you really want to discover yourself, then it's a bit every day and diving slowly deeper and having time for things to grow. Probably also this notion of flow states where at some point you can be at peace also with yourself. I think after that will be just really truly personal. That part for me is something I think we can almost all experience. But for me, for example, through the practice of fire, I use the element of fire as a way to transmute some of my emotions. So when I was going to play and if I was feeling like terrible, I would actually use that as a fuel, and I could feel within me playing with fire the energy moving in my body. And it really helped me through like hard moments of my life to also like transmute what was happening. And I did it in purpose in those moments. And so there I felt also then through flow arts I could really actually have an impact within what was happening in my inner world. So they were completely linked. And
would you like to give an example, like what, because you were talking about you had some rough times, like hardship in your life, and yeah, flow arts helped you. Would you mind to give an example, like what was the hardship about, or like in what way you came out of it?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think like a lot of hardship I was living, it took me years to actually get the pattern clear, and it's also similar to flow arts. The more we repeat and have actually workshop around it, the more we actually start to truly grasp what are the pattern we are living in life. And I grew up with like upbringing was pretty complicated and emotionally like pretty chaotic, and I grew up with, I'm pretty sure like so I had like codependency pattern, so it was affecting my social life with people a lot also, and also anxious attachment system, probably also a little bit of borderline personality disorder, non-diagnosed, but after studying it I can relate to a lot of things. So like for me, the way I was entering relationship was following the same circle again and again. After 9 months, another part of my personality was kicking out with the anxious attachment system, and I was breaking up. Like the person was breaking up with me. All my relationship were lasting 9 months, and I was repeating those patterns constantly while discovering all this art form. And I was doing some moments where I was really doubting my reality a lot. I didn't know what was right, what was wrong. I didn't know if what I was feeling was a reality or not. I had like so many complicated relationship and toxic partnership, and I could travel around the world. It was beautiful, but within myself I was really not at peace. But meanwhile, being in all this chaos, I was taking up props and spinning, and I was sometimes not even listening to music or anything, just keep on moving, and somehow that kept me together. I could process a bit more, and like it helped me. I was doing meditation or this kind of thing, but the fact to be in movement really also helped me to like, I think, keep myself together. And I also studied not so long ago that Jung was talking about the importance of circle to keep your mind out of a psychosis state, but like to keep a bit like of a structure. And also why people sometimes will just draw a circle, or you link that to people doing mandala also.
Or the 8.
Yeah. And we
doing the 8.
And in spinning we do like this figure of 8 is in fishtail, it's in like we draw geometry in circle in absolutely every movement, and also repetitively. So it's helped to like calm down the mind. And I've been in moments where I had to go and play show in front of 5,000 people, and I was completely destroyed inside. I was feeling completely dead inside, but the days before going to the show I was just repeating, and it kept me here, and also gave me the feeling, you know, there's a bit this analogy that for me, if you practice enough, at some point there will be a breakthrough. And for me, I kept that also. Then I'm gonna figure out one day, I'm gonna figure out why am I repeating constantly those circle of suffering, you know. I was just like, and it was so obvious that I'm doing something wrong, but I don't know where, and I didn't know why. And at some point I also started to take workshop. Like I will take workshop to learn a new props and new skills. Like, yeah, I don't know, so maybe I just ask for help, and instead of going to a master I also go to therapy, or like, but it's exactly the same way I access flow art, and I end up accessing my inner world, my mental health and everything. Is like, you can ask for support, you can ask for help, you don't need to figure out everything yourself. And if you keep on willing to try to find out, things will come to you with time. But you don't need to do everything alone also, you're not alone. I think that's definitely part of what kept me going. So that was not precisely one moment, because it was more actually through the years. There was something was constantly there for me.
Thank you. I really appreciate you being so open and sharing about also your struggles in life. And I think that a lot of people, you know, like everyone has kind of like a struggle. That I'm not saying that to like, I don't want to compare. That's
yeah, but we all share troubles.
But we all have struggles, and yeah, it just makes us really human. And yeah, and I find it really interesting also to like see like get to know people in this way,
Mhm.
like because sometimes I feel like you see someone on the stage and the person is shining and it looks so gorgeous and you think, oh, this must be the happiest person on earth.
Yeah.
She or he has the best life because she's traveling the world and she's performing and she's super beautiful and talented and whatsoever, and then yeah, but it's not the whole picture.
No, it's definitely not the whole picture. Especially talking with a lot of performers, we have a beautiful field of projection. Like people can like really project everything they want on you, and you do not have any control over it. That's why I try to be more open to what I actually live, because sometimes I was like annoyed on how people were perceiving me versus what I truly lived. Also, people, oh, you're so talented, you're so good. I was like,
I just train a lot.
yeah, you know, it's like this meme, like, oh, but how do you get so good? Practice. Oh, but practice. You know, like
Yeah.
it's just, and people. It's also, I think, interesting at some point to just hear what people are projecting as a way to put themselves obstacles that they could never reach that. And so they're not really talking to you, just projecting things. But so many of the performers I know are so much social anxiety that people come and give them compliment.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't know what to do with it, and they just want to run in their room and
Yeah.
just watch Netflix, and that's like it's like
Exactly. I was when I was 15, I ran off the stage crying because I was so embarrassed about myself, and like, yeah, I was feeling so much shame about my body, and it took me years to become confident and like really step on a stage and be like, look at me, woohoo, and feel good.
yeah,
It's not something that
like this. Yeah.
no, not at all. So
But that's another thing, by being also like, we do a performing art. So it's mean like, you know, someone who do painting can do painting in their home. That's fine. Maybe nobody will ever see that. But what we do is performing art. So it's mean even if you practice for yourself, people will see it. And like it's you need to hide somewhere that nobody will ever watch you, which is a lot of effort. But then it's push every person who's practicing our art form to actually at some point be mirrored with what people perceive of what they do, what they project on them, what they sing, receiving feedback. You can't hide so much with the art form we do. Like people will at some point see you. Either you're on stage or you don't go on stage. You will have to experience those things, and that's something I'm working on also with my students, or how to receive feedback and how to like actively get feedback if you want to progress and stuff like this. But it's a pretty challenging art form. It's not something you can just do on your own without anyone coming and tell you something about it.
yeah, I like to say when I give workshops, for example in hula hooping, you have to be willing to look stupid.
Yeah.
Because hula hooping, when you cannot do it, it looks so stupid. Like, and then most people don't have enough space in their rooms to practice it, so you kind of have to go outside.
Yep.
And people will see you.
Yeah.
And if you, yeah, that's just how it is. And of course, when people see me, for example, they're like, oh, it looks so beautiful. And like, yeah, but
It's
like
not
a few
as
years ago, it wasn't like that, you know?
Yep. Yeah, and I think that's why it's also super important for people who start to be good at something to start a new props where you suck. No, where you just like, you feel like completely like disorganized with your body and what you do and everything, just to remember the feeling of what's to be a beginner, and like to not do something beautiful also, because I think a lot of performer or people are good at their craft, it's a really beautiful comfort zone after, because you can go outside in case people will come and give you compliments, but you don't get this fear of judgment so hard than before. So I think it's always good to like, especially as a teacher, to remind yourself how is it to like be a beginner.
True. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I catch myself there as well. Yeah. Actually, just doing sometimes the tricks that I already know and stuff like that. Yeah, staying in the comfort zone. Yeah, it happens.
I mean, comfort is great too. Like you also work to get that comfort zone.
That's yeah, definitely. But like for example, flow state, you only reach the flow state when you have a little bit of challenge, right? Like it needs to have like a little bit of challenge to really experience flow. When you just repeat the patterns that you already know for years and it's boring as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. Like the more you practice, the more you experience different type of feelings also in state. Like for writers, they call it the blank page, which also happened for some of us. Where this moment where it's like 2 weeks ago you was the most inspired person ever with your props, and now you feel nothing. You know, and that's why for me again it's something like linked to spirituality or stuff like this, because you really explore them. We go through different waves. Like that's why I don't like the name flow art, because there is like it's not only about make it flow. It's the whole journey you go with it. You know, like in Taoist, I think it's in Taoist spirituality culture. Then they call Tzu, like a master, Lao Tzu, for example. I'm not sure about the pronunciation. So it means directly like as a beginner mind. And the master is the one who can always come to life with a beginner mindset. So being curious, being open to learn. And I think this is, that's another link.
That's a link, yeah. I was thinking that too when you spoke about the beginner's mind, because you have that in like mindfulness practices. That's always about the beginner's mind. Yeah,
so there's many links with this kind of practice, and I think a lot. Yeah, the idea even of practice. I think yoga also means practice, right? It's about also not only like thinking, but actually constantly practicing something and like perfection of a craft or something, and keep digging in a certain direction as well.
Now you mentioned Taoist tradition, and I remember that they have the circle as the symbol. And you were also just talking about the importance of like moving in circles. And I think you were saying something like earlier, not in this interview, I remember you saying that because life energy flows in circles, and this is why like we need to move in circles in a way.
Yeah, like that's the thing I also like about this art form, is like all this geometry, and see how it's something with reflecting in life, and there's like things are gonna repeat themselves, but we can also, mostly we know like vicious circle, you know, but you can actually create virtuous circle. Also things are repeating themselves and keep getting better and better and better and better. When you keep repeating a movement where you are really embodying it, the more you repeat it, the more you can reach something which is getting even more beautiful. So we can also create those patterns and make the energy circulate. And if you see even some of the posture, then you can have like in Tai Chi, Qigong. But there's so many things where you're like, okay, am I doing Poi or am I doing Qigong now? There's a certain geometry within the body that we even see dancer using. And like, for me, I'm mostly interested into that, into this essence that you will find in a spiritual practice, in a dancing practice, in painting. There's just something where like I think art and spirituality and practice are meeting all together. And this is why my interest is like in this melting pot. I find there's something really interesting there.
Yeah, for me as well. Like that, I keep discovering that for years. Like how there are so many similarities and like overlapping forms of movement, and I find it so interesting to explore like what is really the essence of a movement pattern, or like how does the body want to move. Maybe in the end it really comes down to like a few geometrical forms, and when you kind of like combine them, then everything can kind of like be described in through these patterns, like flower of life. Or
I was thinking about the flower directly when for people who practice poi or like double object, like you like at some point you study this geometry as like something which is like mathematic, but then at some point you feel then this is you're exactly in the right place. You don't need to see it, like
Yeah.
you can feel it within your own body.
And
So
you
it's-
understand it not only from the mind,
Yeah.
but you have the knowledge like embodied.
Yeah.
Yeah. You become kind of like the flower of life in
Yep.
a sense. Yeah.
I have a friend who was saying that like for him it's a way also of healing within yourself to like keep doing those patterns as a way to like bring kind of a certain healing energy within. After that's going like more into the spirituality field, so it's everybody's experience with it, but like to repeat constantly those patterns will have on itself an healing properties also.
You know probably dervish dance.
Yeah.
So this like hula hooping I find has a lot of similarities with dervish dance.
Mm-hmm.
Because you constantly move in a circle,
Mm-hmm.
like, but the center is kind of still.
Mm-hmm.
And the dervish, for example, they use it really as a tool to connect to the divine, to God, to it's a mystic, mystic form of spirituality. But I can also like feel it when I am dancing with the hula hoop and just spinning in a circle. It feels it can put you into like a state of ecstasy, and I think
Totally.
that's also why children love it, and just so wow. And I imagine like really like life force entering my body and like filling me up and yeah.
That's the area often where I'm not expressing so much with my students, because I also want people to make their own journey with, and I don't want someone who is like printing my own spiritual belief to people I'm teaching something about spinning, because I want people who are completely like out of the spiritual world to also have their practice with. I don't want to necessarily link to it, because especially in Berlin, people, if you say the word energy, they're like, it's those stuff, and I'm like, sure. So like I rarely have the opportunity to go more in depth on it, but for me, like for me, Flowartist spinning was a way to have like on one way food for my body, which is repeating a movement, food for my brain, where I have to break it down and understand and assimilate all the knowledge, plus for my soul, who was creating something beautiful out of it, and have something with the three elements of what I consider myself being together. It's a trinity going together, and sometimes there's moments where, for me, I spend also so much time watching people spinning, and I've been in moments where you can almost see a touch of grace. You know, the people are repeating so much during all night, and at some point they are in something where they are so together. Everything is connected, and what they do is just a beauty. It will give me goosebumps now to just think of it, because it's
I
like,
can feel it too.
it's like wow, and it's just such a beauty, and it's a way. It was a moment, and you if you try to grasp it again, sure, you can record it, but you will never feel it in the exact same way like this, or you need to really practice to be able to touch this grace every time. But like it's just something totally unique, and I'm also happy to have like the chance to be surrounded by so many talented people who also dedicate so much to this, because like sometimes just sitting and watching make me enter almost this flow state just by being with them, projecting completely my consciousness around them, and like enjoying the beauty creating there.
I believe that every time people get into like, let's say, a meditative state, or let's say a flow state, they like a field, they create a field around them, you know, and when many people do it, the field gets bigger and bigger. And for example, I think also this is why some places on the earth, maybe Kopangan is one of them, but like I'm thinking especially like Rishikesh in India, or like places where a lot of people come to practice a certain kind of meditation or spiritual practice, there's just such a huge field of energy that just by entering that field, you're already tapping into it. Like,
yeah, I can feel that too, especially like with places like Copenhagen. There's different places on Earth like this who definitely have a special kind of aura, but I never linked it to actually people practicing something there, and that's interesting. So like we could have actually an impact on what's going on and the energy around by through doing all together. That's nice. That means also the more you spend quality time and beautiful and practice time into a place, the more you can make. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
There's something you can move my mind. I forgot. Do you have more questions?
I feel like most of the questions that I wrote down we already talked about, and I have like a question for the end, which is a little bit of a weird question.
Cool.
Yeah. So the question is there hope for humanity?
Is there hope for humanity? I would say yes, directly, because also I think people don't realize, but it's a choice also to decide if you hope for humanity or not. I have been also like sidewise of being like into the spinning and education world. I was also before that like an political activist for many years, and I was also like, there's an emergency to shift paradigm and to go to something different, but it doesn't work if you don't believe in it in the first place. And for me, there's ways people are seeing humanity or seeing other humans, where I'm like, I'm not going with that. I want to believe that things can change. I do understand though that often before there's a real shift, the night gets the darkest. Is what I felt for my own life. I had to go through hell, through really like the deepest ground before I could really have a switch and break a pattern. And so for that, I'm a bit scared of what will be a night at a collective level. But in the same time, from what I felt for my own life, it is only through tapping into those things that we actually can change. Now I try to, or at least when you realize it once, you can probably get change without having to tap again the ground. But only people who actually really live through hell understand the necessity to like make change before that, because you don't want to go back there twice. You don't want that. So for me, I think there is hope for humanity. I think we need to be also like a bit more compassionate on the fact that we all have contradiction, and but also trying to see that most of us try to do our best with what we have. And I'm just not a big fan anymore of just like pointing at each other stuff that we do wrong constantly. I think it's important to accept criticism and go further, but it's important to see humans in their entirety. Like, I don't like labeling at all. I come from left-wing side definitely, but I don't like how we point at each other. But you're fucking racist. Yeah, this. I evolved because people gave me feedback. People gave me food for thoughts, gave me things to be able to evolve. And so I would say yes, there's hope for humanity. There's a lot of work to be done. I see a lot of people doing the work internally or outside, trying to create new ways of being with each other, but also it's something will take time, and I hope we can switch in time before we get too much into hell altogether. Definitely.
Yeah, I can very much relate to what you said, especially about the touching the ground thing. I'm kind of afraid what that's ground gonna look like for humanity.
Yep.
I really hope it's not like gonna be at nuclear weapons kind of that scenario, but Yeah.
Maybe we are already in there actually. Just like on that, because like for me, my hell actually was a moment where I was I was experiencing the worst outcome possible compared to what I wanted to live in my life. But hell was not. I was constantly expecting the worst to happen, but I was in the worst constantly, but just getting used of being in the worst. So I was constantly living the threat that things could go worse, but I was already in there. And I was already in there constantly and seeing all my life, like all my potential, all the things I would wish to really do, mm, just being there, but being taken away by the situation I let myself in. So I think we maybe all expect the apocalypse, but maybe we are already in, and it's just up to us to actually make different decisions and like switch a bit the way we see ourselves, see our relationship to people and everything. For a start.
And that kind of comes back to the idea of going within, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the one hand is, like you said, you've been an activist, you want to change something about the world, and like, okay, this and that is wrong, I see that in you that I don't like, you're doing this and that wrong. But then on the other hand, okay, where's the judgment inside of me? Like, where am I creating my own hell? Where am I the one who's,
I think it's from psychology. I think Jung was saying that if we should almost all go through phase of individuation in our life, where we actually meet our shadow, meet all of the worst in the world which is within ourselves. Meet that, to not be afraid when things get into a psychosis level on the collective side. And in those moments we really need people who can keep their ground and be like, hey, let's stay together, let's not go to each other's throats, but like who can see then actually like, we all have that within ourselves. And for me, when I see how other people judge others, I'm like, okay, this is how you judge yourself actually. Maybe you should go and meet yourself there a bit more. But I know it's rough. It's such a rough journey that I understand that people want to avoid it also.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for
enjoyed
inviting.
it a lot. And what can I say? It's been a pleasure, and
Same here.
I'm really hoping that we will, meet again in a few years and like see how we progressed in our journey, and have a conversation. I wish you all the best.
I wish you also all the best. Definitely thank you for the invitation, and I will be so up to have like another one in a few years to see where we are at and how the world evolve, how our vision also grow through all of this. It will be really, really awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.